Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'll be reviewing a new series from HBO called I Know This Much Is True. So I Know This Much Is True is a series that is being released by HBO that is based on a novel that is from 1998 and is a story that follows identical twin brothers that are played by Mark Ruffalo. He plays both the characters in this story, and I have to say, he's really impressive. He is by far the most impressive thing about the show, and I think it's one of his best performances, probably the best performance I've seen from him. He's such a versatile actor, and his ability to play these two different people, he just does an excellent job. And one of the things I found extraordinarily impressive about his performance is that one brother is a little heavier, a little chubbier. The other brother is kind of thin, very muscular guy. And he's actually playing both of them. It's not prosthetics. I was reading more about the production of this show, and apparently he lost a lot of weight or he was working out a lot to play one role, and then he just ate whatever he wanted, ate a bunch of garbage for a bunch of weeks to play the other role. So that's pretty impressive. When I was watching it, I'm like, man, this is prosthetics. This looks really good. So I had to look into it a little bit more, and I found out he actually went there for the series. And while his performance is absolutely astonishing as both characters, the show is extremely, extremely depressing. It's a story that deals with a lot of struggling going on, particularly with the one brother, Dominic. He is the brother that isn't suffering from mental illness, and he has to balance all these things going on in his life. His mother is passing. His brother goes through a very traumatic event in the very beginning of the series. And seeing him try to work through that and deal with his own problems, he's a painter, and he's also trying to get a memoir written from his grandfather. And it's just really sad. Like, a lot of really sad things happen in this show, and it just never stops. It never lets up. I feel like I never get a lighthearted moment. And the show's definitely striving for that. It's pushing for that emotional impact, and I think it hits a lot, and it hits really hard and almost too much in a way. I don't know if I could really recommend this show to anyone because it's really depressing, and it really is a downer to watch, and it's a hard watch. It's not something where you're watching it, you can really marvel at the performances and the emotion that's being invoked from the series, but at the same time, it's just rough. When I mentioned the traumatic event that happens with Dominic's brother Thomas, he goes into a public library in the beginning of the series and he cuts his hand off, and it's very intense, and they show it and you actually see what's happening. So the show doesn't shy away from being very graphic and in your face, and there's some really intense moments. There's a scene in particular where Thomas jumps out of a moving vehicle and tries to run across a major highway. It really ramps itself up, and you never know what's going to happen. And Mark Ruffalo's performance just adds to that element. Now, the show itself is shot in a way that makes it look a little bit older. It's supposed to take place in the 90s, and you get a feel from that. Definitely the set design fits the 90s, and also the filming style. It's a little grainier. It's not as polished, super bright HD like you would expect. And it adds more to that atmosphere of the dreariness and the sadness of the events happening. And it just has this constant gloom over it where it's taking place. It's just dark and foggy, and just like, it just looks depressing. Like, everything about this show seems to drive home that point. I know that's the main hallmark of this franchise, is to really drive home some of these emotions. And I will say that it is a testament to media if it can evoke an emotion from you. I think it's the most powerful thing that a TV show or a film can do from you is, stir something up inside of you. But being really depressed throughout this whole thing, it was tough. As far as the story has been developing so far, I've only watched the first episode. The second one is premiering this weekend. I'm glad that it's a limited series. I feel like it's really going to have some hard-hitting moments. It reminds me almost of when I was watching Chernobyl, where it's hard to watch it. It's very intense. You're dealing with kind of the difficulty of the situation. As the audience, you're frustrated. You're seeing what's happening with his brother, him getting put away where he doesn't want to go, this struggle back and forth, and Mark Ruffalo just giving the best he can in these performances. But I don't know how you could watch this for like 10 or 20 episodes. The fact that it's going to be a limited series, I think it's going to be something special. And it's something that's really going to stand out in Mark Ruffalo's catalog and HBO's catalog in general. I do like the idea that it uses the themes of twin brothers, two people that on their physical level you would think they're identical, but you see the lives that have changed. Someone who's dealing with mental illness, someone who's trying to be there as a supportive person, and seeing that conflict within them, someone who has to stand up and help for someone that is, not in their right mind, and trying to stand up for them and help them and doing their best to help all the people around them, and maybe not having time to think about themselves or work on themselves. But I have looked into a little bit more about that character, and he does have like a little bit of he has an imperfection to him. And that's an interesting aspect that we may see further on in the series, is that while this guy is doing everything to help his family, he may not be the perfect person. And you're going to see that coming out as you saw in the last end of the first episode with his ex-wife. Another thing that I like that I've seen a lot in HBO series that I've watched is the attention to detail, to the production design, and just the nuance to the characters. There's even a moment where Mark Ruffalo's character is having a conversation on the phone, and you're seeing his hand, and he has little paint chips on the edge of his fingernails, and I like that because he's a painter, so you get a little bit more to it. The show is very personal. It's narrated by Dominic, by Mark Ruffalo's character, and you really get a sense of how he's feeling in this kind of monologue of his life and how it's playing out. And it's in a non-linear fashion in the first episode. You're bouncing back and forth between the event and what led up to the event. So I do like that you have a personal feel to it. You have a very personal stake with this character because it's a very small scale thing. It's just this individual person's life and the people in their lives instead of having a huge overarching thing. And I like that, zoning in on that very personal aspect. It drives the emotion up even higher. So those are my quick thoughts on the first episode of I Know This Much Is True. If you checked out this series, let me know what you thought about it. Did it bring you down as much as it brought me down? I was laying on the couch and I thought I would check this out. You know, something new from HBO. They always put out good quality content. And I just, by the end of it, I was just exhausted from it. I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing to say about the series, but I'm interested to see what you guys think about it if you checked it out. So remember to leave those comments down below, and remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.